Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the summer edition of the Faculty of Music Signature Series, Thursdays at Noon. This special summer series is presented by the University of Toronto Alumni Relations Office and the Faculty of Music. The piece we just heard was, I believe it was Mon Bouquet by Achille Fortier, performed by the guest we're about to hear. My name is Korin Thomas-Smith. I've had the honor of being the host for this entire series, and today is the ultimate concert. This is the last time, but I'm so happy you guys are here today. I'm a two-time graduate of the Faculty of Music, and as a student, I had the great fortune of being a part of and watching many of these free performances in Walter Hall at the faculty every Thursday at noon during the academic year. We're so grateful to you for joining us. I encourage you to keep an eye out at music.utoronto.ca and on all our social media channels that's the @ U of T Music, for further updates about performances this fall, like our free Thursday at Noon series. Before we begin, I wish to acknowledge the land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River. Today, this meeting place is still the home of many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. A couple of general housekeeping items before we get too far. We recommend headphones for the optimal experience, but if you don't have them, that's fine. Feel free to ask us questions using the Q&A chat box portion that should be on the bottom of your screens. And then we'll be able to get back to you and ask our distinguished artists about their opinions and their lives and their histories and all the things that you want to know about them. Speaking of distinguished artists, today we'll be hearing and listening to the works of some role models of mine in singing and art song interpretation, the pair Russell Braun and Carolyn Mall. Russell Braun needs no introduction in the Canadian music scene. As one of Canada's foremost operatic baritones, Russell Braun's career has taken him internationally to the largest houses, the Met, La Scala, l'Opéra de Paris, Covent Garden, amongst many others. You may have recently seen him at the COC in the recent production of Hansel und Gretel, and COC is a house he performs at quite frequently. And so it's amazing to see a baritone of his caliber in the city. And he serves at U of T Opera as an operatic specialist. For those of you who do not know, I am a singer. I make it very known. I talk about it all the time. And I finished my master's at U of T in opera. So it's very awesome to have him here. Carolyn Mall is an in-demand vocal accompanist, collaborating with esteemed musicians such as Michael Shada, Monica Witcher, and Patricia Bassett. She has performed in Wigmore Hall in London, Carnegie Hall and Lincoln Center of New York, and in the Teatro del Liceu of Barcelona. As a pair, Carolyn and Russell tour recitals across Canada and are recognized for their interpretation and sensitivity of their German repertoire. Thank you so much today for joining us. I'd like to officially welcome them onto the Zoom call.
Here we are.
How's it going?
Very good.
I'm sorry, I was tripping over my words a little bit there, but I hope I did that. The bio did you justice. It's so nice to be able to talk to you both today.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. Can't wait to get back into that building behind you in your screen.
Right? I've been keeping it on as the background, just as a little homage, a little nod to what we were really missing and what united us, which was this big concrete brutalist building that's been there since the 60s. But yeah, I'm so excited to get back, and I'm so excited to hear your work. So I guess maybe we should get started, unless there's anything you'd like to say. I'm sure we're all waiting with bated breath.
To the University of Toronto to be here in this format, but also grateful for all the years of learning and teaching and learning, and both at the same time, and performing and learning
and teaching and learning.
Attached to learning.
Of course, it's so nice to talk to you guys, especially because you guys are both alumnus of University of Toronto. You guys both did your education there, which is so nice to see you guys collaborating and together. It's gonna be so nice to hear. The first piece you're gonna be starting off with is a piece by Felix Mendelssohn, Venezianisches Gondellied, and I'm very excited to hear it.
Du weißt, wie die Sehnsucht
Just beautiful. That's such a
Thank you.
beautiful, tender piece. I loved hearing that.
You know, the way my memory works is that I can remember the pieces that certain students sang the first time that I met them, going way back over 20 years. I may forget their name, but I'll always remember when I meet them what song they sang the first time I heard them. It's very peculiar. I think for you it was Mein Sehen und Mein Wähnen from Die Tote Stadt. Or Harlequin is what I wanted to say. But this song I remember hearing for the first time when Carolyn and I started teaching the leader class as assistants to a wonderful teacher of the university, Greta Kraus. Carolyn was her assistant already, and Greta taught until she was 90, right? And when she fell ill, I was called to take over very suddenly, and there was a tenor, Ron de Jager, who sang this song in a class, and I'd never heard any Mendelssohn songs really, and I was quite, I've never forgotten it, and it's become a staple of our recital repertoire.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like I've never heard a Mendelssohn song like ever in my life. So it was nice to hear this one. You guys obviously have a connection to German repertoire. Obviously, clearly, also you are a German speaker, German native. When I was looking into you both, I saw the recording of Winterreise you guys did. That was I believe it was Juno nominated. That and I was wondering why in this program today we're not going to be hearing that. Such a I assume that that's a staple in your repertoire as well.
I'm not sure why we didn't. We could have easily chosen one of the songs from there, but are you?
Well,
It's just for feeling it.
We've performed the cycle a lot, and it's actually really hard to imagine singing only one song of that cycle. There are a few songs that are more like folk songs, like Der Lindenbaum, for example. But also we chose songs that were particularly connected to U of T and Walter Hall. And we never actually performed Winterreise together at Walter Hall. So we don't associate that with U of T. But that's a good idea. We maybe should.
Well, that also brings me to another question I was having, because again, that is a staple in your repertoire. When you repeat, or like not repeat necessarily, when you do and revisit works often, right? You guys recital a lot as well. You guys tour, and I was wondering, how do you keep pieces feeling like they're alive, that they grow with you as you perform them?
A piece is always alive. It's interesting. You just reminded me. Russell mentioned Greta Kraus. There was a time that in working with her, I happened to do the same Berg song 2 days in a row with 2 different singers. And the first day, I ended it, and she said, "Oh, Golden is beautiful." And the second day, I intentionally tried to do the exact ending I did the day before that was, quote, perfect, you know? And she said, "What are you doing?" What do you mean? I did like yesterday. She said, "No, this is a whole different day, a whole different singer." And from that moment, no piece is ever boring, because it's in the moment, it's brand new each time you perform it.
That's so nice. That's so nice to hear. I find a lot of trouble with that, especially in the student kind of days, when you go to your lesson and then you're also coaching like just fundamental technique. It's not necessarily the exploration of the art necessarily. So you do something and you're just like, I sang that well. I will now replicate it until the day I die. And which I think it's not necessarily the best thing. As you're saying, I feel like music can be so much more malleable in that sense, and that I think that's something for me to remember in my own artistry when I revisit pieces, to find what makes it fresh and new to me and reinvigorates it.
I think essentially music on the one hand stimulates your imagination, but at the same time, your imagination stimulates the music. We as singers have the gift of text to sort of help that process of imagination. And when you say a word, any word, and you sort of create an image in your mind of this word, whether it's, you know, a word that is laden with meaning like love, or just a word that is descriptive like blue, your imagination at that very particular moment. And just by definition, that never can be the same, right? If you say I love you to somebody for the 100th time, it's still going to be different than the 99th time, right?
That's beautiful. Yeah, 100%. So we're going to just transition to the next piece. Speaking of love, if I'm correct in my German translation, is this the Benedeit to the Holy Mother by Wolf? Hugo Wolf's Benedeit die sel'ge Mutter. I've always loved Wolf pieces. I'm kind of interested to see this. I never heard this piece before, so it's going to be really nice to hear. So take it away, Chris. That is so beautiful.
Hmm.
It's such a beautiful job.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard a Wolf piece that wasn't absolutely insane. Like,
I know. He's I think the most complex song composer there is. I mean, a lot of composers have led complex lives, but they didn't necessarily pour all of that complexity into their type and style of music writing. And Wolf is really unique that way, because he goes from writing cabaret songs basically to writing the most songs that come close to religious experiences, of which this one. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I have been singing a Wolf piece for the summer program I was doing. I don't know, something that's so crazy. And then he has that variety to be able to switch into something that's so reverent and beautiful and gentle. It's amazing. I wanted to share a comment that we got. This comes from audience member Dean Don McLean, who says, "Thanks for this. We should have a Braun Mall Winterreise in Walter Hall when we are back." And I hope that happens.
Hey.
Thank you.
I will be the first person, the first row, socially distanced, 2 meters away from my other audience members, but I will be there. And we have another question from the audience. I think it's also very interesting. Since you are native speakers of German, is there a different sensibility and emotion that you bring to your singing when performing in German versus other languages?
Of course, there's a certain directness and a relationship I have to the text. But I mean, I've sung, we've performed this piece quite a bit in Canada, and of the audiences that we've performed it to, I would say, I would guess maybe 2%, if that much, are German speakers. So in my mind, I always imagine, though, that this number is not 2%, but 100%, regardless whether I'm singing in German or French or Italian or even some more exotic languages that I don't speak. For Carolyn, you can answer yourself, but one of Carolyn's gift is to play in a very poetic, extremely poetic way that reflects the words almost more than the music. And that's really the essential gift that a collaborative pianist needs to have. And so,
but I am not fluent in German or sometimes not even in English. So.
Sister, believe me, I relate so much. But I also want to ask you, Carolyn, this question of when obviously you do interact with the words itself, but how, as a pianist, do you take the concept and apply it to your playing? You're talking about an old teacher and how one interpretation was beautiful for the time and one was not. How do you find that interpretation in your playing, and how do you express that?
I think it's just, it's a hard question to answer, but for me, it's being open to the musical experience of the moment. So if you're listening on as many levels as we can listen, then we co-create the music together in that moment. So it's not, I've learned, especially with Russell, it's not usually my interpretation that gets to. but
I accompany you.
Yeah, there we go. See? but there's a listening and a sharing of ideas and sort of a give and take that's always there. So I think in terms of interpretation, for me, it's again coming back to the aliveness of the music. So everything has its own style, and there's a certain box that each piece comes in, but within that is such, there's just so much room for color and nuance that is unique to each singer and also to each time that you share it.
Well, speaking of, oh, sorry, Russ, were you going to say something?
Oh, well, I was just thinking it's taken me, I don't know, over 20 years to realize that you don't have to have the same interpretation in order to perform the same piece of music. In fact, it's impossible to have the same interpretation. That kind of expectation sometimes puts a huge weight on your shoulder as a young performer, because you think you need to identify with the people you make music with. But the most important person to identify with is the person who wrote the music and wrote the lyrics, and from the singer's perspective. So that's kind of an understanding that comes with age. I think that, you know, interpretation is overrated in the first place, I think. Because it's the experience that matters, and the composer did his or her best to interpret the music for you, and if you can get as close to that as possible, that's I think always a much greater goal than to try to get my own interpretation or Carolyn's interpretation. It's like, it has to be the composer's interpretation.
Fair. I feel like I can argue about that for hours. I feel almost the opposite about that. But maybe we could discuss that coming up, because the next piece is a piece that I think I have also sung, as well as maybe every other baritone on earth, which is from Don Quichotte à dessiner by Maurice Ravel, the Chanson à boire, which is such an amazing kind of piece of this kind of boisterousness. I'm so excited to see how you guys interpret it. It's crazy for the audience who's listening. Try to listen to the piano and see if you could even replicate what's happening in your own head. But so the next piece, which is Chanson à boire from Don Quichotte à dessiner by Ravel. Just insane.
Cheers.
So, cheers. I'll hoist up my water as well. But yeah, no, that part is so crazy. Russell, I am waiting for the day for you to tell me how to master the high F. One day you'll just implant your knowledge directly into my head, and I'm waiting for it. I'm always here.
Oh man, Korin, you are the master of high notes and refined singing. Come on.
Are we recording? I need that for my press kit. I need Russell Braun, the master of high notes. Thank you so much.
You know, it's funny though. The last time that I sang at the Metropolitan Opera was in Faust, and oh gosh, what's her name now? I can't remember. My Canadian colleague who was my Ciabel. I was talking with her after the scene with the aria, and you know, we always have self-doubts, and I said, it just felt like I was pushing a little bit today. And then she looked at me and she said, but don't you think when you get older, pushing is okay sometimes? Because as singers, we're told from beginning on, don't push. And of course, it's very, very important because you can get into serious problems if you do. But sometimes a song like this drinking song, if you say I drink in the kind of intoxicated way, then your body kind of responds like it's a physical experience that includes also pushing. So it's not a refined moment in that sense.
Mm-hmm. I just quick Google search. Is Michel Lozier? Is that the?
Yes, good for you.
I have an anecdote of my time in opera school, and I remember Russell Braun comes in one day, so chipper, so positive, and he's just like, I want to teach you the concept of spontaneity and how to be a spontaneous artist. And he makes us get poetry and improvise in front of our class, which is maybe the worst thing which is the worst thing imaginable for an opera student whose life revolves around the memorization and recreation of that kind of repertoire itself. But it did teach us a valuable lesson of being able to make choices and being able to make choices in the moment without overthinking. And I think that the choices that you two made in that song, the things that were on the paper, like the amount of retardando and the kind of like the burp like sort of expressionism in the piano part. I want to just commend you guys on that. And I want to ask you, how do you, again, I think I kind of touched on it before, but how do you find spontaneity in performance? Is there ever a time where you don't know what you're going to do, but you do it anyways and it works?
I think, it's hard to answer. It's an excellent question. And part of it, to answer it, has to do with what does it mean to be spontaneous? Right? It's spontaneous to me. It doesn't mean that you don't know what's going to happen, because that's random. Being in a random kind of experience. Spontaneity is being open to hundreds of different things that could happen at that moment, but not that you're completely overwhelmed somehow. I don't know. That's how how spontaneity kind of rings truth for me.
Yeah, I think, it's similar to what we said before, that it's being open to that experience in that various moments. So as you've prepared the music, as you've practiced, and there are all sorts of ideas that come up on the page, each rehearsal has many different things that happen, and you can talk about, but it's amazing how often we will talk about, this is exactly, I need this phrase like this, like Russell might need something in order to breathe to get through a certain point, and then all of a sudden, live in the moment, whoop, it's gone. And we're together in that. It's like somehow the discussion about what was needed, there still is the thread of that there, but the actual implementation of how it happens changes, and that's the part that's spontaneous. So you have to put in all the work. You have to put in the studying of the music. You have to put in, if you're not a language person, you need to figure out what it is you're singing or playing. But there's that moment that once you've put in all the work, suddenly you're open to the spirit of the moment. that comes through.
Nice. No, that's so cool to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like, I've been thinking about how I want to be a kind of like a performer and how I want my performances to be, and I want to feel fresh and invigorated, but there's also that sense of expressing artistry through convention, expressing artistry through what has been made for you, and not everything can be a random performance in that kind of way. It's nice to have that definition of what spontaneity can be, more than a random set of events. It's being open to the experience and what changes can happen thereof. I think I love that. I kind of want to get to the next piece because the next piece is Canadian, which is, and it was something I, sadly enough, in my studies haven't necessarily seen or performed a huge amount of Canadian repertoire. But John Greer, who's the composer of this next piece, is a fairly well-known Canadian entity in the classical scene. Is there any sort of particular? I think we talk about it later. So the next piece you're going to be hearing is Un Canadien errant by John Greer. Hope you enjoy. That is such a beautiful piece.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Korin.
much for that.
You know, it's a very well-known French-Canadian folk song that John arranged initially for tenor and baritone. And when Carolyn and I and Michael Schade had our period where we did a lot of duo recitals, we sang a collection of French-Canadian folk songs in those recitals in, Geneva and Berlin and New York, and we would always sing these fantastic Canadian folk songs like Là où qui sont tous les raftsmen, like just wonderful Canadian folk songs. So John Greer arranged this particular song actually for us for this occasion, just to sing as a solo. And John, without a doubt, was for me personally a tremendous highlight of my time at the opera school. 89 till 91, he was a young coach back then, and full of incredible enthusiasm, and he was conducting us in performances, and he's just one of the most positive, inspiring musicians to have the chance to work with from you know, at any point in your career. So also this song in particular, Un Canadien errant, I've always taken a little bit with me when I'm traveling or when we're traveling together, although the song itself has a very particular meaning historically for French Canada, and it's from the perspective of a soldier, you know, who is sending a message back home through the river to Canada, hoping that the message reaches the people he had to leave behind. And there are so many of us traveling artists who, you know, wish that we had the opportunity to stay connected more directly to the people and places we leave behind in Canada.
That's beautiful. I love that that you are kind of like bringing shepherding art song throughout the country and throughout the world as well, from Canada, and that part of our identity. And I love the imagery of just like we're all moving as artists. I think that's also kind of metaphorical in that sense of our own kind of interpretation of this stuff is moving as well. Like everything kind of shifts. And during this time as well, when we're all kind of stuck at home, it's kind of nice to imagine the concept of moving, at least. I wanted to bring up something that as I was researching you guys, I saw this this post on the National Post. You guys maybe you don't remember it, maybe you do, and it was called "The One," and it was a post about how you knew that the person was the one, and you guys both gave an interview for that, and I read it, and it was very cute. If the audience doesn't know, the pair in front of us are a married couple, which is very interesting to see how these two collaborate. And in the interview, you guys were saying how you guys met in a song interpretation class in like second year when you were studying. You guys have had a relationship that long. How is it working with someone for that amount of time? How does that connect you guys, and how does the formation of musical ideas happen in that kind of space?
Wow.
Long-winded question, I'm sorry. But I was looking for a segue to mention it because I really like the article.
Great questions there, Korin. I think, I mean, music-wise, it's pretty, we tend to work very, very easily together, so that there's, like, I think there's an ease that both of us have when we work together, because we kind of know what to expect. I remember I can't remember exactly where it was. I think it was one of the concerts that we did in Vancouver, where the presenter said, "I can't believe you're so respectful to each other." So I think there are some husband and wife teams that maybe don't always, you know, it doesn't always work that well. But we do tend to. I mean, I of course give in all the time, and
yes, you do.
I know, but it works. So, but we do tend to find our way, especially in that moment of making live music. We have a very similar approach to that listening, so that it's just grown over the years. It's funny though. You would imagine living with the person you're going to be doing a recital with, that you would have far more time to rehearse and prepare. It's not the case, because if I'm working with someone else, I schedule rehearsals, but when it's the two of us, there's a part of us that knows, oh yeah, we can do that, or if we don't do it now, we can do it tomorrow, and then suddenly the recital's looming and we're thinking, wow, we haven't even looked at this yet. So
well, you guys have been collaborating a lot. A lot of the musicians I've been talking to have been kind of isolated from the people that they collaborate with, but obviously by the means of living together, you guys get to do projects. And a great project you guys have been doing is the Wish concert series you guys have been doing on a YouTube channel. You guys want to talk about that at all?
Right. Yes, well, very soon after we went through the process of, collecting our sons, who both actually last year studied in the States, and we were kind of, because they have baseball connections, and so that's how they ended up at universities in the States, and we collected them, and the borders were just closing, and there was this incredible feeling of anxiety around that moment. I talked to Carolyn, and I said, I have this crazy idea to just, and I honestly didn't know what was going to happen, to put out on Facebook what I called a wish concert. It's kind of a direct translation from a word that's commonly used in German, which is Wunschkonzert. You turn on the radio and they say, so-and-so from Magdeburg has requested this song. And I said, I'll just put it out there, and we'll see, to record a song in our living room by request from someone, a friend. I don't use Facebook as a professional tool like some others, or who have professional Facebook pages. So really the people whom we know on Facebook are friends we actually know. And so I said, we will record any song. And if it's a hymn, if it's a pop song, if it's an aria, if it's an art song, we'll do our best. And so for 2 months straight, we recorded at least one song a day. We went through the long list, and we did over 80, I think 82 recordings in total. Twice my voice kind of said I need a day off, and then Carolyn recorded a solo piano piece. But there are over 80 recordings on this YouTube channel that we created. So that was, it really kind of took on a life of its own, but it also kind of came to a nice close at the end. I wanted to add to your question before about collaborating over the years, that music is such an important part, of course, in our lives, but it's also a very important tool for a relationship, because, not always in any relationship or a marriage do things go 100% hunky-dory, And so even in times when there have been quite some challenges for us to work through, we always find a way to make the music work and to keep that process alive of communicating and dialogue, even if in other aspects of our life we're struggling with those. And I think for us personally, music has been an incredibly healing sort of companion over the years.
That's amazing. We can continue this conversation a little bit after. I have some further follow-up questions. But the next piece you're going to be hearing is also something that has a lot of significance to you as well, and we'll explore that later. It's a piece called Northern Landscapes by Srul, Irving, Glick. And with that, I'd like to introduce the piece. Gotta wait for the pianist to lift their hand. That was one of the first things I learned when I was at when I started my undergrad and never saw a classical concert. I was like, wait for the pianist to lift their hand. That's when the piece is done. So I never clapped too early. But that was so beautiful, and the amount of like, can I call it extended technique of the falsetto usage and the atmospheric sort of creation that the piano had. It was so sparse and so beautiful. I love that. I never heard that. I know that you guys were talking about how every piece that you guys chose for this concert had a particular connection to the space of Walter Hall, and that this composer also does have that connection for you. Do you guys want to take a quick second to maybe go through that?
Well, I think Srul Irving Glick was a graduate of U of T. I'm not sure if he actually taught there, but my personal connection to him was through the Festival of Sound up in Perry Sound. He was the CBC producer for the first few years there when they would record all the concerts. At that point, I was just a teenager that suddenly fell in love with music. But he was this incredibly gentle soul who would listen to the music with his whole body. He would sit in the room, and just his whole being would undulate no matter what piece he was listening to. He just absorbed every single nuance of the music. And he also loved the nature of, he loved his cottage on his time on Georgian Bay. And so I was very excited I didn't even realize his connection to U of T, but I was excited that Russell found that. Let's use this.
As long as it works, right?
Yes.
So unfortunately, it's just so sad that we're kind of reaching the end of our time together, this conversation. I wanted to ask you, is there anything that you guys would like to plug? Is there any sort of further projects you guys are going to be starting? Anything you guys are looking forward to musically doing?
I just really want music to keep going. And my plug is for us to find a way that singers can sing as safely as possible, because we need to keep music alive. We need to keep so that U of T finds the safest way for teachers and students to work together, and that in general we find that even for small communities, for church choirs, it's just so vital for people's well-being. So my plug is not to come to my next concert. It's to let's keep music finding in the healthiest way possible to flow.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you know, this kind of dire situation has stimulated the imagination of so many artists and presenters, and to sort of not only redefine but also connect to a broader audience, perhaps through the digital media. So not all things in the end are going to be more detrimental. There's a lot of positive energy to find as well, as long as everybody can somehow weather the financial storm. You know, we're very fortunate in that with all the cancellations of my particular work, the U of T has been a constant, because I'm on faculty there. There are so many other singers who, you know, don't have that security, and also Carolyn's position at the St. John United Church of Georgetown and Glen Williams. You know, there are people who are not quite as lucky, I guess, or prepared to sort of get through this financial storm. So we're both very grateful for those institutions.
100%. Yeah, I feel like we're all we're yearning in a way that we haven't before, really, for like just the opportunity to make music and to collaborate, and definitely keeping music alive is something I think is all on the forefront of our minds. And I think you said it beautifully, both of you. So my final question for you guys today, I think is maybe one of the most important. What's your favorite summer activity?
Oh, wow. Baseball.
Baseball.
Boys play baseball, which we haven't been able to do this year.
I totally agree with that. I mean, it's both been, over the years, they both started playing at such a young age and then developed quite into, you know, quite competitive athletes. And they were both supposed to play in the same organization, the same league called the Inter-County Baseball League this summer. And they were both supposed to be on the same team for the first time ever. And the whole season was canceled, of course. And so that favorite summer activity is gone. But
I mean, we also love walks in nature and enjoying this beautiful surroundings. But I've very much missed watching Ben and Gabe pitch.
Yeah. We'll get back to it soon, though. Fingers crossed that music and baseball alike will come back full force. But I want to thank you both for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you guys and to hear about your artistry. And you've given me, and I'm sure the audience as well, so many new ideas and interpretation and musical beliefs to kind of like explore in our own time for those who do music, and to listen with a new ear for those who aren't necessarily musicians. It's been such a pleasure, and I thank you guys so much for coming.
okay.
Thank you, Korin.
Thanks, Korin. Thank you, and all the best to you with the continuation of your gift and your artistry as a singer. And you're doing this particular job also particularly well. So thanks to everyone, and to Jeff McFadden for organizing it, and all the people behind the scenes.
Amazing. Okay, so we're going to be closing up with one last piece of yours that you guys will be performing, which is "Your Eyes Have Told Me What I Did Not Know," and I'm very excited to hear this. So, lastly, ending off their time here, Geoffrey O'Hara's piece, "Your Eyes Have Told Me What I Did Not Know." Please enjoy.
Have told me what I did not have told me that your heart is mine, and now no word of doubt shall darkly fall, for I have found a sweet and holy sign, for I have found a sweet and holy sign, your eyes, dear heart, have told me.
And what a way to end off this afternoon. Let me level with you all on the audience side. It's been such a pleasure to be a host for this series. I really had a pretty sweet time, and I hope you guys had a good time with me. This is the last of our time together, at least my time with you. Hopefully something of this likeliness or caliber will be able to happen again. It's been so nice to share music and to share perspective, which is not something we've had much of a chance to do as we're in isolation. If you guys want to keep up with my musical journey or what there is left of it, you can follow me on Instagram. I post some musical snippets there and some manic stories at K Thomas Smith. You can search up Korin TS and I'll be there. But it's been so nice to engage and be here and be in the moment. I hope you guys have a great afternoon. I hope you guys have learned a lot, and I hope that you enjoy your own summer activities, whether at home with your family, with your friends, in isolation, or otherwise. Have a good day. Enjoy your summer. Goodbye.
Espérance, verso tocco